Hello everyone and welcome to a new video. Today we will be showing how to make this image. Alright, so we have Lightroom opened up. We have some selects here of some images I took a previous day. And the one that I'm going to edit is going to be this photo here. This is the raw image straight from my camera. A few of you guys have asked me to kind of show how I edit and like how I edit my photos. So this is going to be a little tutorial, and let me know in the comments if you guys want me to do this regularly, and for different shoots I go on and different things I do. So first things first, I like to shoot in RAW, as you should. It helps the editing process better. Raw images hold a lot more information. So if you're not shooting in RAW and wondering what I could do better, that's like one of the first things you can do is shoot in RAW. And you know if it's a RAW file. If you look here, it says the .cr2 file. The .cr2 files are Canon RAW files. So starting off, we're gonna bring this in the develop section on Lightroom Classic. All right, and first things first, we're just gonna hit the auto button. And there you go. Thanks for watching. We're back. That's not how I edit photos. I don't really suggest doing it unless you're in a hurry, try and get a lot of stuff done. For things like this, take your time with each individual photo. But the first thing we're going to do is the white balance as of right now looks pretty decent. It's pretty white balanced already. That's one of the first things you should do when you pull out your camera is make sure the white balance is good. And you can make those very minor adjustments later in post. But you want to stay away from doing drastic changes with your white balance and post. That should be completely done in your camera. First thing I'm going to do is, the photo's a little dark. I like to shoot a little underexposed just so I know everything. I can bring up the shadows, but you can bring up your shadows, but you can't bring down your highlights too much. When things are blown out, it's blown out and you won't be able to retain that information. The camera won't be able to retain that information for you to be able to edit it. So that's why it looks a little dark. I'm going to bring this up a little bit. And just find something that looks good, I think right there looks pretty good. I like my photos to have a lot of contrast in them. It helps. A high contrast helps an image look sharper, as well as it just brings in that more depth back in that might have been lost through shooting or even through some of the editing we'll be doing. So let's bring it up. That looks pretty good. And the first thing I'm noticing in this image is the sky. The sky seems, it's the sky and then the shadows down here. So we'll adjust those. So we'll bring down the highlights, and there we go. You get all the detail you can see in here. The detail back in the clouds just from doing the highlights alone. The shadows, what we're going to do is raise that just a tad bit. Probably a little too much. That looks about good right there. And we'll just play with the whites, see what needs to be done. I do want that light to still be there and to still shine through the clouds. I just want the detail from the clouds there, which we'll bring that back with the presence tools. And blacks, let's deepen those a little bit to just give the shadows that more darker feeling, but adding in more of that contrast. So presence tools, which is your texture, your clarity, and your dehaze. They change your images, and a few of these tools really change your images. For example, if you get your dehaze tool and bring it all the way up, this is what it can do, or all the way down, and that's also what it can do. Same thing with the clarity tool. It really drastically makes a difference in your photos. Um, but what I like to do, my images, I like to have them look, have a lot of detail in them. I like the look of having a lot of detail. Sharpness and detail and color are things that I really like within my images, as well as high contrast with the light. Because to be a photographer is not only to see your subject, but to see the light of your subject, which the word photography means drawing with light. That's pretty much its direct translation from the Latin, if I'm correct, the Latin roots from that, from photo meaning light and graph meaning picture or drawing. But anyways, we're gonna now add in some of our detail. We're just gonna go a little bit on the texture, bring the texture back into the asphalt road here, as well as a little bit in the boat. We're gonna bring up the clarity just a little bit, not too much, and add a little bit more, and that looks pretty good right there. And dehaze just a tad bit. There you go. And then with your vibrance and saturation tools, like I said before, I really like to have lots of color in my photos. I really like to have the natural colors enriched in the photos. So what I like to do is I usually bump up my vibrance a good bit, get that nice vibrant color back in. And same with saturation, just not too much, just a little bit. Because when you shoot, a lot of the time, the camera can, and it kind of depends. The camera will not necessarily record the most accurate colors, especially when you're shooting in this color profiles. I don't personally shoot in standard. I shoot in neutral, which kind of gives more of a washed look to the images and the raw images. I add in the color back in to give the color back, because when you shoot in the neutral color profile, it's almost like kind of like the still photography way of Rec 709s for those filmmakers out there. It gives it that washed look, which will help the image retain more information for you to be able to edit later. So this is all the edits we've made so far are completely just here and under the basic folder of the editing tools, and we can look left to right the amount of change that we've made with the images just from the basic tools alone, which we're still not done yet. We're going to go deeper into this, but you can see just with your basic tools of just pretty much lighting and just a little bit of your color tools, it makes a difference to your photos straight from the camera, and it makes it look more dramatic. It makes it look a more powerful image that can tell a lot more. And for storytelling, that's needed. You want to be able to just show that story and the details of that story better than present it in the best way possible. So yeah, and that's just the basic tools. So you can see the changes made here from the before and the after, just how much lighting alone can change your images, which I already said. We're going to go deeper into it, especially with the lighting and the colors, using masks and the actual more color tools that are available to us. So let's check some of those out. A tool that I don't really see a lot of photographers use, or just a lot of people don't use, is the calibration tool here at the bottom, which I didn't start using this tool more until recently, which the calibration tool will change your images completely. Mostly the blue slider here, the blue saturation slider. The calibration tool, it helps you calibrate your colors a lot more, and the color science and the color theory knowledge will help you a lot more with this. So you have your primary colors, your red, greens, and blues, and basically you can it's just calibrating the colors in your images pretty much. So you have your red, you can change the hues in your red, which you can kind of see what that does there. The green, which now changes the hue of the green, as well as the blue hues. I can make it more teal or more purple. But when you look at the science, the color science behind the colors more in the digital realm, a lot of colors use blue in them. Like a blue is a very heavy color when you start looking into the RGB sliders and things like of that nature. You'll notice blue is on a lot of colors, like just a little bit. So when you notice, when you move the blue primary saturation slider, you bump that up, so here's as normal, and this is what happens when you bump it up. It makes the colors more rich and fuller, but at the same time also makes the blues a lot bluer, which might be a little too much depending on your situation and your subject. And that's when you come to color mixer. You can just select your blues, and then you can just bring the blues themselves back down, but still be able to retain that rich color and pretty much everything else, such as this little, I'm not too sure what that is, but this orange bit under the boat, it makes it more rich and more present. Same here with the teal. With the aqua, I'm gonna bring that down just a little bit. And there you go. And doing that, boom, just like that. Like the colors you can tell are like completely different from what we've done in the after image so far and what the original image looks like now. Like the colors you can tell are just a little bit more rich, which I think I'm gonna make the blue a little bit more blue. I want the boat to have that blue feeling, and then I don't really like the color of the water back here. It's too, I feel like it makes the colors too vibrant having it down there. So I'm gonna just make it more accurate to what I remember seeing it as. It's just not too blue like that. Well, the boat here as our subject was. Next thing I've noticed, which has been bugging me, is this little darker bit in the corner here, which was caused most likely possibly by my lens hood or something getting in the way of the camera there, of the lens, I mean. So instead of, a lot of photographers will typically just use your healing tool, probably your content aware removal, or even your clone tool, and then they would just, get rid of that, just like that. Personally, I don't like doing stuff like that, no matter how minor it is, unless it's dust spots on the lens or the sensor. I will pretty much never alter an image to remove something that was there or to add something in that wasn't there. All my photos are natural and use pretty much just normal basic editing corrections. So we're just going to crop this out and make our subject look a little bigger, as well as straighten the image as well, which tilted it just a little bit, and I think it looks pretty straight now. And cropping alone can change your image a lot to make it more powerful and more intense. So there we go. We got rid of the object in the upper right corner there. Another thing I'm noticing is a lot of fringing. So we'll just go to our lens correction tool and remove chromatic aberration and enable our profile corrections. And there you go. We just neutralized that. The next thing we're going to do is go to our detail tool to really add in our details, make our image a little sharper, as well as you can tell here it's a little noisy. I was shooting at 1600 ISO, not too high, not too crazy high, but like the start point of being there. So first thing we're going to do is by holding down the Alt key and moving the slider, it will make the photo black and white for you to be able to clearly see the corrections you're making. And if you hold Alt with every slider here, it'll show you, such as the radius tool here, the detail tool, and the masking tool. I typically only move the amount slider and the masking slider. And the masking slider, pretty much everything that's in white is what's being affected by the amount tool. So by masking it, you pretty much, you don't need everything sharpened or in focus. It's mostly the outlines and like the lines of everything. So when you move this masking tool or slider up, you kind of only want it not to be like everything, something like this. You want it to mostly just be outline of. So if you notice here, it's kind of like just the outline of the ship, of the background, and a little bit of the asphalt, which is okay. We won't mind that too much here. But pretty much you just want the outline of your subject, pretty much. Get the outline sharpened. And there we go. So next thing I see here is when we zoom in, and you see here in the preview box, you can tell that there's some noise. So we will be getting rid of that. And not so much by the automatic AI denoise tool. I'll manually do that. I like to do a lot of things manual and spend some time with my images. It helps you connect with your images a little bit more and getting it to be exactly how you did it. And it's like you completely working on an image on your own, which I'm noticing some color noise in there. We can bump up the color noise, denoise, a little bit up. I think that's pretty good. That's good enough for us. So next thing we will be doing is going to our masking tools. So this is what we're going to do now. Making the lighting more dramatic and more intense is using our masking tools. So the first thing I'm going to do is add a linear gradient to the bottom of our image. Mostly just for the road and the asphalt at the bottom, like bringing you in to from the bottom, going more towards the center of the image to look more at the subject, which is the boat. Which lighting is a very, very powerful tool for a photographer. You can use subtle lighting corrections such as masks to be able to subconsciously make your viewer look at certain parts of your image. The viewer's eye will naturally go to the brightest part of the images, such as the sky if it's a flash or a light, or if it's a very high contrast black and white photo. Then the eye will naturally go to the brighter parts or the wider parts of the images, rather than going to the dark, to the shadows. So you can really use lighting and masks to be able to give your viewer a visual journey in a sense, and drawing their eyes inward towards your subject, wherever it is. For this photo, it's slightly in the middle, going to the right. So we're going to use use the masking to our advantage to be able to show the viewer from, instead of looking down here, instead of just cropping it, using the element of the road here. It's not good to always crop everything out. You want to have some sort of sense of where something is, where something's at, with that sense still being there, but it not being prominent in the photo. So that's why we're adding this mask here, which could be a little darker. Right there works pretty well. Next thing we're going to do is we'll add a radial gradient here. We'll select make a mask about the same size as the ship here, and we'll make the feather. Yeah, we'll make the feather pretty good, but then we're gonna invert it and make it just a little bigger. You'll see why in a second, and I think actually for this one we'll lower the feather a little bit. And what we're doing here is essentially making our own vignette tool. But instead of it going directly to the dead center of the image, it's more of where we want it to be the center. And there you go. A little bit more. And there you go. And then now what we're going to do is we're going to duplicate this, return it to normal, but instead of darkening, we're going to light it. If it will behave how we want it to. So fighting with it, I'm just going to delete that and then just make a new gradient. And for this time, we are going to increase the feather and then increase the exposure to make the boat more of a brighter part of the image. It's right there, works pretty good. So if we look at the original image now, you have the before and after. We're still not done. I'm going to tweak it just a little bit more. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add an actual vignette tool in the effects panel. I'm going to lower the amount just a little bit, not too much, but just a little. Increase the highlights so the highlights can peek through, as well as increase the feather a tad bit. And I think I might just lower it just a little bit, as well as change the roundness and just find something that looks good, that draws in the eye a little bit more. I think that looks pretty good right there. A little detail I think I want to have popping out at the image more is the little writing here at the side of the ship, which we're going to make a radial filter around it just to increase the exposure of that, just so it catches the viewer's eye just a tad bit more. Just little details like that to draw you in just a tad bit, which it might be a little bit too much because you can see the outline of the filter, or the mask, I'm sorry. And that's something you don't want. When you're making masks, you don't want to be able to, you shouldn't be able to see where it starts and ends. It should be a gradual ease into it, into the changes. Bring it up. And then we actually might make this a little bigger so that there's room for it to grow into it. Which, if this cooperates, we can make it bigger. Now, too much would be something like that, obviously. You can tell it's overblown. You can tell where the mask starts and ends. So that's way too much. You want to have it subtle. The point of a lot of this is for it to be there, but for it to be subtle. And I believe the last thing I'm going to do is just change the color profile from Adobe Color to Adobe Vivid, and you can just tell how much that changes the image, which a lot of my images are used in this color profile, which the color profiles alone really alter the image a lot. There's this landscape, then you have portrait, the standard and vivid. I personally just like the profile look of vivid a lot more than a lot of the other things. It kind of depends on what my subject is and what I'm shooting. That's typically what I like. I might crop in just a little bit more just to get the background less dominant, and to also put it more on that rule of thirds on the bottom third, the horizon line on that third, making this subject even more dominant. There we go. And that's how I edit my photos. You can tell from what it is now, but actually I can see a little bit of noise still left there. So we're going to get rid of that as well. Our final last thing. You just got to look at things and know, hey, this is what I like, what I don't like. You know, it's the little things, like right now catching that little bit of noise left in the image. So yeah, it looks good to me. You can see the before and after. You know, it's pretty accurate to what I remember seeing. It's there. You know, it makes the subject pop a lot more. You know, nothing too crazy. Different little alterations to make it pop out more. And just for the subject to just pop and give it that more dramatic hit. But yeah, that's how I edit photos. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to put them in the comment section below. It's a pleasure making this video. If you guys want me to make more videos like this, let me know either on Instagram, which will be linked in the description, as well as the comment section. I have some great things planned for you guys to see and watch. Yeah, let me know if you guys want more of this sort of thing. I'll be more than happy to show and give out my knowledge through my years doing this. I hope you guys enjoyed. See you guys next time. Bye.